span spanning roughly wider than the width of a tram, about 90 feet wide. On the top of just the big thing too, so we got these giraffes. The right back onto the other side of the South Africa habitat again. The Maasai giraffe that we saw from down below, talking about how they have those amazing prehensile tongues that can wrap around and grasp onto things. One of the things they love to eat out of the savannas, their favorite is the thorn tree leaves off of those thorn tree branches. And like that name does suggest, thorn tree, you've guessed it, lots of pokey thorns on there that they're going to have to avoid. That's a very risky business involved if you ask me. But for giraffes, thorn tree branches aren't too much of a worry, because what giraffes have is extremely thick and sticky saliva. It's very ooey gooey, and it's going to help coat the thorn if it does happen to break off and get stuck in their mouth. So it hopefully doesn't give them too many little pokes. And if it does happen to give them a few little pokes, as they try to spit it back out of their mouth, it is thought that perhaps their saliva may have some antiseptic properties to help heal up any little pokes that they may get. But on all of that, deep grab in, now one last amazing view of the savannas of South Africa here. It's the Patterson's eland down below us, the khaki-colored antelopes, as well as you might see some massive horns off to the right-hand side. Just also as a reminder, we're moving right now. I need everyone sitting down back there for me. Thank you. Oh, wow. So if you can see those massive horns up there on the right-hand side below the pepper tree, those belong to the Ankole cattle. Those horns tip to tip can reach upwards of 6 foot wide, which is like the one bench that you're sitting on right now, 4 seats put together. So most of them would just barely fit on board the train with us, but I have a feeling they probably wouldn't be too good of a passenger. And these horns on the Ankole cattle, they haven't gotten so massive due to any sort of reason, like an adaptation that's going to help them survive better in their environment. Horn size and shape has just been due to selective human breeding, as they are domestic cattle. But don't worry, being that domestic cattle is not a food source for anyone in East Africa, just a status symbol actually, to show up to others around them to represent their wealth to society. Similar as someone here drove around town in a sports car to show off their wealth to society here as well. But do grab in now one last final look of the savannas of South Africa for heading on out of here, and go back into the East Africa savannas where our journey began. And as we have traveled throughout our journey here today on the tram, start to finish, in total we cover about 2.5 miles. That encompasses 250 acres or so of the open African savanna habitat. And all this amazing, beautiful open land that we see around us was all the vision of Dr. Charles Schroeder, who was the San Diego Zoo's president at the time back in the 1960s. With this idea to start a place with all the open land for animals to roam freely on, as well as being able to coexist with other species like they would out in the wild. He thought an environment set up like this would be good for breeding, which is why the park was originally started and formed. It was to solely be that breeding facility for the San Diego Zoo, which it is still to this day a breeding facility, but it should focus now shifting a bit more towards things like conservation or the species survival plan, for example, like I mentioned earlier with these black rhinos. But hey, anyways, back on track here, right on his idea that he had in a lot of respects, Dr. Schroeder. As for example, a safari park has been the most successful in southern white rhino births out of anywhere in the world, with over 100 southern white rhinos born here in the last 50 years. 104 of them to be exact. And the reason for all the success with that is thought to be attributed to the big open savannas, the habitats here, as there is ample room for them to live in larger social groups like they would out in the wild, and that is precisely what they need. It was found very social rhinos compared to eastern black rhinos, for example, a bit more solitary. But in these larger groups, females feel safer, more comfortable, allowing their bodies to go into estrus, thus being able to get pregnant and have those cute little rhino babies. It has been evident with all the success that has been seen here at the safari park with the southern white rhino, which, hey, speaking of southern white rhinos, got a couple more of them hanging out on the hillside. As we arrive back into East Africa, where we started our journey today, being those lawnmowers as they tend to be on the savannas, because that mouth shape for them is best adapted to the flat grassland environment. Bottoms of their mouth are really flat and wide. Think like the bottom of a lawnmower, to say they're being that grazer out there mowing the lawns. Compared to, let's say, the eastern black rhinos can be that really muddy one that we saw as we were driving up the hillside. Eastern black rhino mouth shape is completely different on those guys. They have what's called a hooked upper lip, prehensile like that giraffe tongue. They quite literally hook onto branches and leaves up above to help pull them down, as they are a bit more of a forested species of rhino. Call them a bit more of a browser, kind of think like you browse up into the shelves of a supermarket, also with your prehensile hands. So two different species of rhinos, with both best equally adapted to their given environments to best survive. But hey, I know, enough of all this rhino talk. As I mentioned earlier, I could go on about them all day, as they are my favorite. So hey everyone, welcome to the rhino tour. But we got some more giraffe to check out now, as we pull down the path a little bit more. When they do tower above the rest, I guess even when they're sitting or laying down or standing up. But a group of giraffe is actually called a tower, in fact, and that is because oftentimes they are referred to as the watchtowers of the savannah. They have amazing eyesight. They can see up to over a mile away. So oftentimes you'll see smaller animals on the savannas. They will look for the giraffe for cues, because giraffe can see scary danger long before anyone else can. Rule in the savannas is, giraffes run, you run. Ask questions later. You don't want to find out what that scary thing is until it is then too late. So you may have noticed they're kind of more on the right side of the group. They're both laying down, but even when they do stand up, not quite towering above the rest yet. The two littles laying on the far right of the group are about 6 months old right now, born early February. Nuru and Satuni are their names. So soon to tower above the rest, but even from birth, giraffes definitely tower above most of us humans, as they are about 6 foot high in height when they are first born. Because, well, we do have to be tall enough to nurse from mom. Speaking of littles here out on the savannas, and I guess another excuse to talk about rhinos. Next to the giraffe, we got 2 more rhinos. The one laying down, he is 2 years old now. That is Lazy, with mom Holly, who is standing up right now. So a couple years old. Southern white rhino calves, they hang out with their moms for up to 3 years. And I wish we could hang out with these guys all day, the rhinos and everyone else in Africa. If we had it my way, we still would. But we do need to head back on into the station now. And as the Africa Tram Safari here comes to a close, we're heading on in. Hope you all learned a couple of different cool facts about the wildlife here, and also about their adaptations and how these adaptations not only help them to better survive, but thrive in their environment. Like the light colors of greater clothing, go to 6 in the hot sun. And on behalf of myself and the organization, San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance for the Safari Park, I'd like to thank you all for joining us here today through one of the 2 front doors. As we are a non-profit organization, so that means everything from admission tickets to stuff purchases in the park or the zoo all goes back into not only caring for the wildlife here, but wildlife conservation projects worldwide. And as we are rounding this last bend on into the station, as we do, just make sure to stay fully seated until we come to a complete stop. Only exit to the right of the vehicle is the side of the station. And once we have completed that full stop, you will be opening up your own door by reaching over on the right to the knob, pop the knob forward, gently nudging the door outward to open it up. And thank you so much for joining us here today on the Africa Tram, and have an awesome rest of your day here at the Safari Park.